The M4 Mac Mini has now been out for a couple weeks, and I want to kind of give some insight on who should buy the base model Mac Mini and really ask myself the question, do I regret buying the base model Mac Mini? Now, just in case you've been living under a rock, the new Mac Mini is absolutely amazing. You do not get this size of a PC in any other form factor other than something like a Mac Mini with Apple Silicon in it. This has the M4 chip in it, which is a really incredible chip. And on the base model, it has 10-core CPU and a 10-core GPU, which is actually pretty solid. I mean, I remember back, just a few years ago, having 6 cores was like mind-blowing. It's got a 16-core neural engine, which is really fast. Like this whole M4 Mac Mini is absolutely unbelievably fast. And what's actually crazy to me is I have an M3 Max MacBook Pro, and sometimes I can't tell the difference between the two. Now, a lot of that is because this M4 Mac Mini just has such a high optimization. That's one of the cool things about when a company owns both the hardware and the software side of things. They can optimize to no end. And so with the kind of move to Apple Silicon, back with the M1 or with I guess the original M series, which was that was the M1, okay? And then it was the M2, M3, and M4. So, but with the M series chips, like, man, it's just amazing to see what Apple can do when they have control of both the hardware and the software. Now, I do like this device because of a lot of the I/O that it has in it. It's got 2 USB-Cs on the front, 3 USB-Cs on the back, but they are actually Thunderbolt, and so they're very fast. HDMI, RJ45, and the power. People have made a very big deal out of this right here. I don't know if you can actually see it. Yeah. So the power button is on the bottom. To me, not a big deal. I don't really ever turn off my Mac Mini. Not a big deal. But that's not the question for today. The question for today is, do I regret buying the base model M4 Mac Mini? And the answer for me is actually kind of. Okay, listen. The M4 Mac Mini, it is incredible. The price is outrageous. I mean, we'll look at prices in just a second for these things, but man, absolutely outrageous machine. I mean, you do not get this kind of small size machine with this much power, especially when you're in the PC world. I love building PCs. I build them all the time, but you would never in 10 million years be able to find a PC that is this small, that has this much capability. So it's an incredible, incredible machine, but I kind of regret buying it because I am still so mobile. I've got a few different reasons, but the first main reason is that I'm still so mobile. Now, I have an M3 Max MacBook Pro, an M3 Max MacBook Pro. It doesn't choke on anything. It's an incredible, incredible machine. And yes, the M4 Mac Mini, it absolutely gives it a run for its money for like literally a quarter of the price, which is unbelievable. But I already have that incredible machine. And so I kind of wish I would have gone with the M4 Pro version of this just to see kind of if it could get a leg up, and then maybe I could sell off my old MacBook. Now, I am, again, still mobile, and so you can do some things to make this mobile. I mean, literally, you could kind of put it in your shirt. You could fit it in a pocket. You really could if you wanted to. And in fact, I had a cable at my work where I would plug it in and bring it home. But if I wanted to go to a coffee shop or something like that, I had to have my MacBook with me. And so that kind of became a problem. Now, one of the ways around that you could do, and that's what I have done in the past as well, is I had this at my home, and then I used my M4 iPad Pro when I was out on the go. And so that kind of still was a light setup and all that kind of stuff. But because I have a really nice laptop, I'm not really going to use the base model, especially because I do so much video editing. And that's one of the hard pills to swallow with something like this. If you're anything more than just somebody who's using a lot of Chrome and you're using, Gmail and that kind of stuff, you may want to consider getting a little bit more storage because just like apps take up space. Yes, 256 is doable and you can put a hard drive on it. That's absolutely doable for large storage files. But when you have programs running on this thing, you probably want to go up to the 512 or a 1 terabyte version. I honestly think computers from now on should just start at about 512 because it's just programs are just so big to run on something so small. Now, I also kind of regret buying this M4 Mac Mini, the base model. It kind of isn't solved by any of the Mac Minis right now, but the fact of the matter is, yes, this I/O is pretty nice, right? When you got the Thunderbolts, all that. But look, I run this whole channel off of a very, very powerful PC setup, and that's why I can do all of the changing on all of these things that I want to do whenever I want to do it. And so, unfortunately, it just doesn't have, I've got like 10 different things connected into a PC, and so this base model Mac Mini, to me, it is an incredible device, but for my specific workflow and how I run this channel, honestly, I don't know that any Mac could keep up with what I'm doing right now, even though I'm primarily a Mac channel or an Apple channel. I love Apple products, everything Apple Mobile. I even love their desktops, but there's just, for this one way, and this is the most ridiculous way to run a YouTube channel the way that I do, but it works for me to get a lot of content out fast. So the Mac Mini doesn't work for me in that situation. In fact, I even got a Sonnet external PCIe enclosure so that I could put my CamLink 4, it's 4 camera input device thing in it. It didn't recognize it. Apparently that only runs on Windows. And so no matter what, because I don't like taking out SD cards all the time, it just wouldn't work for me. But none of that really is to say that this is not an unbelievable machine. And so if you're looking at this and you don't have the specific workflow that I have, which Mac Mini should you get? Now here we're gonna do a really quick buyer's guide. Okay, look, the base model at $600, man, that is crazy. That is mind-blowing. Now, I would say you should probably go at least up here to the 512 SSD, which does get to $800. That is a lot. I would love to see this thing with a terabyte at that price. That would be absolutely amazing. Now, one of the big questions that people have is like, man, how much RAM do I need for my Mac Mini? And so a lot of people would think like, hey, if you regret buying the Mac Mini, your RAM usage is probably going to be the thing that you regret first. For me, it hasn't been. The swap memory on these things is so incredibly fast, and I don't think most people keep around a device long enough to see the degradation of their SSD happen, and so I don't think that's as big of a deal. So I think 16 works for 95% of people. If you are like me and you do a lot of video editing, you do even photo editing, that's not really taxing your RAM all that much. But man, if you do any kind of 3D workflow, you're probably going to need quite a bit more RAM. And if you're on a 3D workflow, you're probably going to be on PC because they just run so much better. NVIDIA graphics cards, I have a 4070 Ti in my machine. It would do okay, but like you can get a 4090 and just destroy 3D renders. And so the reality is this Mac Mini is absolutely incredible for the average person. It's incredible for anybody who's not doing creative workloads, anybody who's just an office worker, business worker. Maybe you're a student. That is going to be a really, really big deal, especially for students and you're on a budget, man. Getting into the Apple ecosystem where you got all your messages on iMessage and all your documents kind of syncing across devices. It's an incredible device for that kind of workflow. I just have a little bit of different needs, and I know there's a lot of people that have different needs out there like I do. So tell me in the comments below if you think I'm off my rocker and this thing's just totally fine. Tell me in the comments below what you think about the Mac Mini. What is your workflow? Do you think this Mac Mini would be good enough? Like this video if you found it helpful. Sub to the channel. We are so close to 10,000. I can smell it, okay? So please subscribe to the channel if you don't mind, and I'll see you guys in another video.